Hello, this is Geoff from Who Corner to Corner podcast, and I've got a question for you. Have you ever wanted to run your own podcast? If the answer to that is yes, then you might be interested in the workshop that I'm running with my friend Chris from the Secrets and Spies podcast. It's taking place in Guildford, Surrey on the 22nd of September. There's a link to the Eventbrite ticket page in the podcast episode description, or you can go to Eventbrite and search Silvertip Films to find out more. I hope to see you there. Hello and welcome to Who Corner to Corner podcast. My name's Geoff and his name is
Paul. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm feeling a bit rough, mate. I'm not going to lie. Since our last podcast recording, I've been laid low, stricken, you might say, with the evil flu, possibly COVID. I don't know. I've never had it before, but now my voice is back. Mostly, I'm massively drugged up, and I'm as high as a kite. So raring to go, mate.
This will be a good one then.
Oh yes, it's going to be fun. Fun. That's what we like on this podcast. You want fun? Come right here.
You sounded a bit rough on at the film festival last week, didn't you?
I did, yeah, because that's when it started. It was last Friday, literally a week ago today. And you had me, like, not only giving out an award and having to say stuff on stage in front of many, many thousands of people, I also had to do an interview to camera after all that had gone through, and my voice was getting progressively worse throughout. And then by Saturday, when I got home, it was just gone completely. And it stayed like that for about 5 days. It was awful, mate. Honestly, today's the first day I'm actually feeling like I'm coming out the other side of it. So fingers crossed, touch wood, and put me banana.
Yeah, you do sound better.
That it all goes
today.
well.
Yeah. Well, we're here today to talk about the future of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Big topic.
Yes, hot topic.
Hot potato. You know, they should actually have a villain, a Doctor Who villain, as a potato. I know they call the Sontarans potato heads, but what if actually the new Doctor Who monster was an actual potato given life and sentience by some unearthly means that was going to spell destruction for the universe as we know it? Great idea. I'm full of ideas today, mate. I'll tell you now.
You weren't joking when you said you were off your head.
Bob on. Aye, lad, that's right, yeah. It's all good. Don't you worry about me, lad. I've got my meds. It's all fine.
So, obviously, the future of the show at the moment is sort of up in the air.
Hanging by a thread.
We had the, I think, sudden departure of Shooty.
Yeah.
That
was very sudden.
Crowbarring in of Billy as the Doctor or whatever,
just for the sake of a cliffhanging finale moment.
Yeah,
something to get in the media, get the fans talking. Be very
because it'll be
a hoot.
And Disney are not making any decision on Series 3.
Yeah, we're going to stand back and just see what happens. Let's shake the tree and see what falls to the ground. That's their line, I believe.
Is that what they said? Well, I don't think it's unusual
verbatim
to do that. They rarely
big corporation
multiple seasons in a row. So, I think that's possibly been, twisted a little bit out of, take
context
portion. Yeah. But, obviously the show is, no one really knows what's happening. There's still a bit of the war between the land and the sea to come early next year. But what do you think at the moment?
You might have to edit that bit out. Sorry, go on.
When you look at the future of the show, what are your thoughts on things at the moment?
I'm kind of caught between an air of total ambivalence and a sort of a kind of despair that we're not going to see anything anytime soon. And yet a kind of hopeful optimism that it will come back. I genuinely don't believe that Doctor Who's disappeared for good. I think this is going to be quite a substantial rest. Hopefully not as substantial or as long as the 16 years we had between the end of Sylvester McCoy and the start of Christopher Eccleston, with Paul McGann in between, obviously, but that was just a one-off. So I'm kind of hopeful for that at least. Doctor Who will return. and I'm sure it'll be bigger, bolder, brighter, and better than ever before, as it always is. So, but I am disappointed that we're probably not going to get anything new now, at least on the TV, for, I don't know, however many years, 4, 5 years perhaps, not till 2030. I mean, it'll take a few years for them to reach a decision if they haven't done already. And then, of course, they've got to produce it, they've got to write it, they've got to, film it and do the incredibly long hours of post-production and everything else that these TV series seem to command nowadays, as we talked about in our last episode. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am at the moment. What about you, Geoff? Where are you at?
Yeah, I think essentially they've blown it at the moment. Okay. And
there's a statement. I
think going in with only a 2-series commitment and no kind of further plans for things was a bad move. Because it's partly what's left us in this place here now, I think. But I think that you're right. I think it will carry on. Even if it's another 2 years before we see anything, it will.
I think that's optimistic.
But that is optimistic. You're right. Even if early part of next year they said, we're going to do another series. You've got to cast the Doctor. You've got to write the scripts. You've got to get it all back in. It's going to take some time. I think there is plenty of stuff coming out that will keep us going. We've got Circuit Breaker coming, which is the Fugitive Doctor multimedia story. And then, of course, we've got new 13th Doctor audios and 9th Doctor audios and a whole ton of other audios as well. So there's a lot of stuff still coming. So it's not dead in that way, is it? What are your thoughts on the extra stuff that's coming?
I mean, I think one of the best things about the wilderness years of the 90s was the fact that we got so much Doctor Who. It was almost like Doctor Who never really went away, at least for the fans anyway. Obviously, for the great unwashed of the world who never watch it, then it makes no difference, and they wouldn't even know it was gone. But for us fans, we had so much stuff. It was unreal. And one of the best things that came out of them, there's 2 great things. First was the Big Finish. Sorry, not Big Finish. That was later on. But first was the Virgin New Adventure Novel series, which picked up allegedly where Survival left off, and that was great. So a lot of those books were kind of questionable in some ways, but they gave birth to so much new talent, which we've seen in recent years. People like Russell T Davies. His first published work was a Virgin New Adventure. Paul Cannell again. The first time he broke through. What's his name? Mark Gatiss. All those names, they're with us now. They've been writing Doctor Who for the last 20 years or so. So that's great to see. And I'm really hopeful that we'll get a new influx of talent for the next generation of Doctor Who fans coming through, however long this hiatus or wilderness or whatever you want to call it, temporary blip on the landscape is going to last. So that's a really good thing. And then, of course, the other good thing that happened during the wilderness years, as I sort of mentioned, was the Big Finish stuff. Big Finish came out end of 99, start of 2000, a small fan-made operation, first given license by the BBC to use the actors, to use all the assets that Doctor Who had at the time to basically start building and crafting their own stories within that massive universe. And of course, now we know Big Finish is a massive empire churning out tons and tons of content all the time. So that's not going to stop anytime soon. And I suspect that a lot of the focus now is going to shift in towards that arena. But I'm hopeful that we'll maybe see some really good video games to keep things through. That we'll see some more experiments in cross-platform storytelling. I know with things like that we've discussed before, it maybe hasn't quite landed, but that doesn't mean to say they shouldn't stop trying to find something that's going to work. And I'm hopeful, as you said, we've got Circuit Breaker coming along, right, which is their cross-platform thing. Yeah. So that's going to be something I'll look forward to, and I'm looking forward to whatever comes after that. So, nothing new on TV, which is a real shame. And I do agree with you that the way the 15th Doctor was kind of treated, I guess that small era wasn't in retrospect, in hindsight, probably wasn't the best move for the show, but it was clearly the right thing to do at the time. You know, there's obviously a lot of pressures that we're not aware of in these big corporate worlds. A lot of money, there's a lot of competition, there's a huge amount of expectation, and they produced it in the best of intentions. Nobody ever goes out there to produce poor Doctor Who to kill it or whatever else it is. That's just the thing that happens because of all kinds of, you know, different things that occur once the broadcast goes out. And we're not even privy to a whole bunch of those. We see the tip of the iceberg, Geoff, and there's a whole bunch of stuff below the water that we don't see. 90% of all the pressures that these guys are under, we just do not see at all. We can speculate and we can cast rumours and respond to those as we see fit, but we really don't know what's gone on, and we don't know what's happening next. So it has left us fans in a bit of a position. But you know, we're not gonna sort of, you know, well, we might cry into our soup. I'll say we're not going to cry into our soup, but we might do. But we'll get through it because we're stronger than that.
Yeah, and you know, like we said, there's plenty of other stuff to, you know, to keep us going. And,
that's really exciting.
You had the wilderness years, you know, a long time ago, and got through that, and it came back.
It wasn't that long ago, yeah. You know, actually, do you know what? I am in denial that the mid-90s was now 30 years ago. Yeah. It's just awful. I can't even consider that in my head. That's like, you know, that would be saying in 1995 that the mid-60s was 30 years before then. Yeah. That's crazy. 1965 to 1995 is the same now as 95 to 2005. And I wasn't even around in the 60s. So that's not good. It's a way to make you feel old, mate. I'll tell you now. So we've asked a few people online what their thoughts are. Exquisite.
So, William Who said, bring a new team in. The more I hear from the current team, the more I get the impression they've just lost ambition and given up hope. The first step is probably finding a new streaming partner and then choose the showrunner together. This could help, as I think the BBC are stuck.
The BBC are stuck? Oh, that sounds a bit grim, doesn't it, William? Come on, mate, buck yourself up. You're better than that. Come on, be positive, my friend.
Yeah, but I get it because, you know, they're asked about what's going on and, you know, nobody seems to know anything, and they're probably
then just start telling us.
Yeah, well, they're probably partly saying that, yeah. But I think, you know, we've had, you know, for the last 20 odd years, we knew it was coming back, you know, next year and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And this is the first time there's real uncertainty. You know?
But then how does that apply to other TV shows? I mean, quite a lot, I think. I mean, I remember Babylon 5 when that went out. All right, slightly different climate, but that was always cancelled, it seemed, at the end of every season. There was never any guarantees that it was coming back. I think the only thing that had any real certainty was the endless Star Trek franchise series. So, you know, and that had a massive machine behind it that was ultra-powered, super-powered, whereas this stuff is small-scale in comparison. You know, the BBC, as much as we would, you know, it's competing at a really high level, but it's what do they say? It's pushing well above its weight in terms of that. The BBC does not have the budget of HBO or Disney or any of those things. It needs those backers, really, to be able to put stuff out at that level. It can do it on its own, but there's a huge amount of risk involved in that, you know. So is the BBC really going to allocate an enormous part of its budget and its time and its energy and its talent and resource, which it doesn't have? It's not the same as it used to be 20 years ago. You know, the BBC is much more, like a lot of corporations, it's much more outsourced now to freelancers and independents than it ever used to be. That's why Bad Wolf got involved, because the BBC outsourced the production of Doctor Who to Bad Wolf. Would have been a safe bet, you would imagine, and maybe it still is. But yeah, I think William's right to some respect. They've really got to think about what they do next. And I totally agree. It's got to be a brand new team. But it always is with Doctor Who. There's always a brand new team waiting on the fringes, you know?
Yeah. James Matthews says, personally, he thinks it's done. The creativity's lost and the audience has left and won't return.
But humbug, that's bollocks. They'll always return. There will always be a new audience for Doctor Who, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to entertain that comment in any way, shape or form. I'm just ignoring that.
I do think that the idea of
it's not dead. It's not
putting
gone.
The show on pause will make people forget about it, and then it will come.
Doesn't matter.
Back,
There'll be more people. Look, the show was away for 16 years back in the day, with one interim that nobody bar the fans really well. I say they actually had quite a decent view of things over here, but of course they will. There are fans out there always looking to discover new stuff, and even if the current generation of fans, die off or whatever, and when it comes back, there'll be new fans coming on board. And I plan to stick around for then anyway. So there's one old fan who's still going to be here.
Yeah. The overall nerds say scale down on the scope, focus on character-driven stories. Since Series 12, it's just been big event after big event. The show feels creatively dead, which should be impossible. Not every finale companion can regen needs to be game-changing. Do Season 11 again, just better. So I do sort of, agree. It doesn't always need to be massive, but then people sort of come to expect that now. And, if it doesn't reach a certain level, will people be disappointed? But I think as long as it's telling a good story, it doesn't matter what scale it's on, really.
Absolutely. Stories, as Big Finish rightly say, are everything. The story is everything. And the best stories, for me, at least anyway, come from the characters and what they're up against and how they respond to them and how they change throughout the course of that story. That's all you need. It can be small scale, it can be cosmic on scale, as long as the story is gripping in some way. And the best way to make story gripping, give the audience characters they can identify with, sympathise with, be excited by, be brought along for their emotional journey, can rage at the screen at because they're so evil. Give those characters some heart and some conflict, and we've got a great story.
Yeah. Rich Harman says his biggest gripe is it doesn't feel British anymore. Disney budgets and effects are all well and good, but Doctor Who is not Star Wars or Marvel. It felt much more down to earth than the Chibnall, Moffat and early RTD days. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's having leaned into the fantasy and stuff recently, it did perhaps take it a little bit away from its core, element, perhaps. Although I quite liked that, although then I felt that maybe they didn't do enough with it in the end. I don't know.
I don't know. It's a difficult one. This I get exactly where Rich is coming from here, and to a degree, I think I maybe agree. I think Doctor Who has always been quite noticeable because of its kind of inherent Britishness. I suppose that's what us Brits have always kind of held on to, I guess, because it's our identity amongst this sea of corporate produced stuff that's out there, and some of it is better than others, but there's a whole swathe of it that is really, really bland and by the numbers. So Doctor Who, we don't want Doctor Who to be like that. This is our property, and we want to kind of hold it, But at the same time, I think Doctor Who has always, at least since the kind of mid-70s or mid to late 70s, had aspirations to be seen within that arena, to hold its own against the likes of Star Wars. I mean, there's that great story when Terence Dixon, Barry Letts, was it, or Philip Hinchcliffe? I don't know, I can't remember now. Robert Holmes, whatever. Anyway, whatever script editor and crew it was in the late 70s, Graham Williamson or whatever, went to see Star Wars, and they came out there thinking, we're never going to be able to do this now. The whole landscape has changed. Spaceships made out of washing up bottles and fag packets held together on strings being crafted across screen, shunted across screen by someone holding a script in the other end is not going to really sell it. But it managed. It survived. And, as far as I was concerned, I was watching those things in the 70s as a little kid. It was, it was a good house, because at the end of the day, the stories are the thing that matters. So I think Rich is right to a degree, but I kind of hope that Doctor Who will retain its essential Britishness. Does it feel different now? I suppose actually in the last couple of seasons, maybe it has done because of that. We had, we had a unit set up that reminded me very much of the kind of late 70s, early 80s sort of Glenn A. Larson productions, Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers, and even the other stuff. There was the Irwin Allen things, which I think even they come from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Land of the Giants, and all those kind of things, because we had we had all those archetypes in place, even the kind of whiz kid / robot, funky robot. What was it, the Blinks or something, which actually in the end didn't do anything, whereas at least in Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers, Tweaky went biddy 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 and stuff, provided a little bit of comic relief and became a slight iconic legend because of that. We had the robot in Lost in Space, which was it Robbie the Robot? So that was fun.
Yep.
It's those sort of types, and I think and we've also had Unit Tower looking like Marvel's Avengers Tower, right? Stark Tower, whatever it's called. And I think if Doctor Who is going to use those tropes, it's going to feel a lot less British and a lot more corporate, Americanized kind of stuff. But I think those things are surface detail only. I think they will pass and they'll either continue or be dropped by various production teams. But I do agree that season 13, at least for me, is the template of how Doctor Who should be, because that is a series based on the template of the original Doctor Who back in the 60s, series 1, episode 1. That's where it all comes from. Chris told himself, he went back to those documents and literally wrote it, from scratch. If you were doing a new series of Doctor Who now, based on that brief, what could it look like? And this was his interpretation of that. So I think that's definitely a kind of route to consider when the new production team, whoever they may be, start bringing it back.
60s Man says, I don't much care. The Who stuff that I'm enjoying the most are some 8th Doctor and 3rd Doctor stuff from Big Finish. So, we may not have a show on air at the moment. We've got plenty of other stuff to listen to and to enjoy. Bertie Odell says, I really tried to stay positive, but I am increasingly finding myself wanting a change. Something seems to have gone very wrong with RTD2, despite some great episodes. I don't want Who to end or even break. I just want good stories again.
Fair enough, Fly the flag, Bertie. Come on, stay with it. Keep positive. It's all good.
Martin Havel says, I don't think we're seeing it until at least 2030, which is kind of what you said. Mimi Miku says, I don't believe people who think creativity is dead on the show when we have episodes like 73 Yards and Lux in it, such great episodes. I mean, that's true. They were really good.
I disagree.
Lux, certainly.
Well, I see, we're the opposite there, aren't we? Because I prefer 73 Yards to Lux. I thought Lux was an absolute crock, but you enjoyed it.
I liked that one,
That's fair enough. That's the way it is.
Cancel the show or rebooting is not a solution. The solution is to have something well written. The problem with the show today is that RTD has a problem with writing the main arc of his season. The one-off episodes are, in the majority, really good. Yeah, I think that's probably quite accurate, really. As well. JWC Reviews says it's creatively dead, sacrificed good stories since Jodie arrived in favour of being relevant. It will never be cancelled completely, but it has been and will continue to be a different show since Moffat left, and will never be what it once was. A big reboot is needed. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know. I think doing it again like they did in 2005 could work, so it's carrying it all on again, but it's coming in, fresh and new to it.
Yeah, I think Rose is a good template for any kind of reboot, to be honest. There's no mention of any of Doctor Who's past history or anything at all. It's literally, and it's told from Rose's perspective, so any new viewers are coming at it through her lens.
Yeah.
And I think they're discovering the Doctor in the same way that she discovered the Doctor. And all the other stuff comes in later on if it's needed.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's the best template. I think the first part of that, I mean, this term creatively dead is reoccurring. I think that's been a little bit overused and it's inaccurate. To be honest, I think, it's not creatively dead. I think all that's happened is they've done something the last couple of years that has worked for a whole bunch of people, and it hasn't worked for some. And for those for whom it hasn't worked, and I'm one of those, I haven't really enjoyed it that much. We're all spouting, it's creatively dead in the water. RTD's messed up and all this. It's not. No. That's not really the case. And I certainly don't agree that Doctor Who sacrificed good stories in favour of being relevant. If stories are relevant, that's great. But I don't think there's any example of that being the case in Doctor Who, that a story is sacrificed for being relevant, by which I assume they're meaning it has a political aspect to it, that it says something about the world we're living in now, or a topic that's affecting us all at a root level, about some division in society, and there are plenty to choose from right now, and there were back then as well. So I think Doctor Who should always be looking at those, and I don't agree that the stories were sacrificed in terms of making that relevance heightened within them. I think the stories have come first, and for me at least, I've mostly enjoyed them.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element that, like you said, it doesn't, hasn't necessarily connected for everyone, and people felt like that with the Chibnall era, which we loved. So, I'm sure there's
It's just
people
fair
who,
enough. It's not
yeah,
going
it
to work for
happens.
everybody, is it?
I think there's just maybe a greater feeling of this didn't work, amongst people.
I think that's maybe there's a greater feeling because you're feeling that too, whereas you didn't
Possibly.
previously.
Yeah.
We obviously, we love the Chibnall Jodie era and couldn't understand why anybody wouldn't like it. But now we're on the other side of the fence where actually we didn't quite engage with these last couple of years. So now what we're seeing is the kind of resonance within our own echo tunnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing things that reinforce our own opinions. So now we're thinking, well, there's a majority of people who hated it. It's probably not true. It's probably as true as it was during the Chibnall era. But we're seeing it, we're in a different tunnel now. That's the difference, right? So, because this is the trouble with online stuff. You only ever see your own opinion reinforced. Yeah. So you immediately think you're on the winning side, you're on the right side. And this is a terrible consequence of social media right now. They're never going to get around it. We've got to live within this. But the only way to kind of appreciate it is to step outside it and view it objectively.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to, if they could do a poll that, was a wider number of people and get a kind
But again, you do a poll on Twitter, right? So you can't choose Twitter to do that. You do it on Twitter. You're only going to reach people who mostly agree with you, therefore reinforcing your opinion,
your view,
reinforcing your echo tunnel and giving your voice amplification within it. Doesn't necessarily extend outside it because there's, honestly, we're not all in the same tunnel. There are multiple tunnels side by side in parallel. They don't ever, or they rarely ever cross over. They only cross over if there's a breach somewhere along the line. It's never a full crossover. It's just a hole in the wall. I'll tell you what, mate, I might be on meds, but I'm on fire today.
Yeah, you are, yeah. Herald of Creation.
I see people writing in, he said my comment was a crock of shit. I'm sorry. I do apologise. Well, I sort of apologise. I shouldn't say that. We've been told to cut down the swearing, and that's all on me. So I will do that from now on. Promise. Pinky promise.
Herald of Creation says, I was deeply disappointed by the way Series 2 ended. I did not want to lose Shooty. But he has gone and we are where we are. If the show is going ahead in the future, I'd give RTD a special to clear up this mess and then bring in a new creative team with a new doctor, a soft reboot. Jay says, I feel like it's lost focus. It's just been this huge conglomeration of random ideas and mystery boxes and a severe lack of care towards its characters. There's no heart. It feels corporate and shallow, like a dime a dozen streaming show.
Oh, that's quite sad. Do I agree? I don't know. I can see where Jay's coming from on this, but again, I'm everything I look at is filtered through a much more optimistic lens, I hope. So, that's my subjectivity coming into play there. So I can't really allow myself to agree with all that.
Yeah, my feelings on it are probably a lot more complex, I think.
Complex man, Geoff. I can see you battling. It's in your face, mate. It's right there. For those of you just listening, you need to be able to jump on YouTube right now and look at the conflict in Geoff's eyes. Or is it because actually he's working? He's actually at work right now and he's got people around him who he doesn't want to know what he's doing. So he's doing it on the quiet. Yeah.
There's a couple of comments here. Very Pete Lambert and Cool Cat, who basically say needs a soft reboot, new creative team. Law purge is what Very Pete says, and Cool Cat says a team who are not obsessed with the show's history. I think it's good to build on all of that and incorporate it, but I think like we just said, it needs to kind of come back Rose style, and kind of bring it all in gently over time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, this is quite an interesting thing about the idea of a soft reboot, soft or hard reboot. A full hard reboot, we forget everything, we start the series from scratch, no reference to everything at all. Soft reboot, well, I mean, to be fair, the show pretty much soft reboots every new series, I think, or every time a new companion's introduced. Every time we get a new production team in place, it's always done that, even from way back in Hartnell.
Yeah, well, they want to put their own stamp on it, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. You look at series season 2, excuse me, in the 60s, the Hartnell years, becomes very different to what series The first season was. You know, the Doctor's lined up. There's more comedy introduced with Dennis Spooner's plays, Donald Cotton stuff as well later on with the gunfighters and stuff like that, and the Mythmakers. You know, it becomes different. Then, of course, we get another reboot with Trout, and then another one again when it's Trout, Jamie and Victoria. And then we get Jamie and Zoe later on, and we get a reboot between producers as well. Pertwee, you know, Third Doctor, first time in colour, land-based, Earth-based stories. Second season, different production team, right? So again, it's different stories, and it's constantly Tom Baker comes in again. We go back into space, and it's always rebooting itself. It's always doing a soft reboot, and each season will either lean into the history or not. Or it'll make its own new additions, whether they're in conflict to what's gone before or not. The old crew didn't really care if it was in conflict or not, and I think, you know, it's always going to do that. There's too much legacy for it to ignore, I think, and I think it would only be a fool who completely ignored that. You know, when the Eighth Doctor story, the TV movie came on 96, and there was at least one effort to get it into production, involved a whole rebooting of all the ideas that Doctor Who had ever done. And it looked awful. It's all in this Leakley Bible thing. It had Daleks and it had Cybes, you know, but they'd all been redesigned. They all had slightly different backstories. And the whole reason for the Doctor to be doing what he did was because he was searching for his father. So that became, you know, if that had gone to production, that would have been awful. You know, but this is the problem with the hard reboot. You do that, well, what are you actually going to do that's different, that hasn't been done, or that makes this thing uniquely Doctor Who?
Yes, because it is what it is.
Exactly. That particular effort would have made it even more generic and corporate and Americanized than anything we've ever seen since in Doctor Who. So I think you can't really hard reboot the show without making it a different show. And as soon as it becomes a different show, well, it's a different show. It's not Doctor Who anymore, you know? So, and this idea of a soft reboot, as I said, Doctor Who does that all the time. Every new season or couple of seasons, it always soft reboots.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose they're thinking it's a, you know, almost complete start over on it.
But why?
Yeah.
What are you going to do that's different, except make it a different show?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we don't have to worry about this.
No, we don't. Well, not unless we get the gig to make it.
Well, the pitch is pending, but
then, to be honest, I wouldn't. You know, I wouldn't
want to take it.
Hard reboot it. Who on earth could rewrite Doctor Who to be something else? My goodness.
Even that, I wouldn't want to take it on anyway, because you're just making something that it was just going to be moaning about. So I got no thanks.
You know, you can tell your own stories within that framework, within that sandbox, without touching any of the history at all. You know, it's always been said, Terence Dick said it, you know, all you need is the Doctor, a companion, the TARDIS. You probably don't even need two out of those three. As long as you have the Doctor, that's it. That's all you need. And everything that the Doctor believes in, excuse me. But, you know, if you're going to lose Gallifrey or whatever, I mean, Gallifrey's come and gone over the years anyway, because they brought it back thinking we need that big event. And then they've lost it thinking, you know, we've tied something to our ankles now that's dragging us down. So, but that'll always continue to be the case as Doctor Who goes forward, which it will do in whatever year that happens.
Yeah. Tim's just walked in.
Hey, Tim. Is this Tim that I met last week?
Yeah.
Good lad. Pointed out a few things to you, didn't he, Mr. Horsham?
Yeah, he did, yeah. So I think, people are, there's a lot of mixed feeling at the moment. I think it would be really helpful to get an answer on things, so we kind of know where we are. But you know, I think that's a good few months away. But you know, my view, I hope it carries on. I think you know, there is still a future. You know, we've got, like I said, the new 13, the new 9 years, the Fugitives series starting.
Coming through as well.
There's a new 15.
The whole new series.
Yeah, 15, yeah. So there's lots of stuff, you know, and so plenty to enjoy, plenty to keep us busy.
Very much so.
So thanks to everyone who commented on this. This has
definitely
been quite a good chat, a lot of chat going on this one. So just before we wrap up today, we're going to start our new time and space visualizer.
Yes.
The
Time Space Visualizer.
We put out our poll recently to our listeners to get some feedback, and we said, would you be interested in us covering non-Who stuff? And it was a bit of a split on the answer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we thought, well...
70-30 split currently.
Yeah.
70% for it, 30%, just want Doctor Who, mate.
So instead of, covering something different on an episode, we'll just sort of do a little spot at the end of an episode where we can talk about something that we've done or watched or read or played recently, because we've obviously got no show to talk about, and we need something to...
Well, we can have loads of comics, Big Finish,
we've got a lot coming up there. That's true.
So that'll keep us going for a little while.
Yeah, that's true. So, would you like to tell me one thing that you've done or watched or played or read recently?
Well, do you know what? I'm going to go my video gaming side, because for most of this year, right, I've been re-indulging myself in the Mass Effect series on Xbox, which I just love this. I don't know how many times I've played this through now. I don't know, at least half a dozen times, but it takes me a long time to get through. Each one of these three games is an increasingly massive RPG based in space. But I love that story, and the first one came out when 2010, something like that.
Yes,
I can't remember now.
Yeah.
It might have even been before that, to be honest. It's one of these projects that have been talked about for a while, and then when it really appeared, everyone lost their stuff about it. I'm trying not to swear, right? So it's like, but I remember when I first got it, right? Because a mate of mine that I used to work with, he was all into it, and he was all over it. Oh yeah, Paul, you got to play this Mass Effect. And I got it when it went cheap, so a few years after. And I played the first one. I thought, oh, this is awful. It just seemed really slow, ponderous, and I just could not get my head into it at all. And he says, but you're a fan of sci-fi. Why would you not like Mass Effect? It's brilliant. You're a sci-fi fan. I'm like, yeah, but it's just really slow and boring, mate. I'm just not into it. And then Mass Effect 2 came out a few years after, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll give that a go, because the reviews are pretty good. And it was a bit more kind of shoot 'em up, so it annoyed all the original RPG fans. It's not an RPG anymore, but all the shooters, and of course I love shooters, so I was into it. And I thought, oh wow, this is brilliant. It's like a sci-fi novel in video game format. Yeah. And then 3 came out, so I played 2, then I played 3, and then I went back to 1. I enjoyed it then because it had some context, and then I played 2 and 3 back to back again. So I did that loop, right? And then I gave a break for a couple of years, came back, did the whole thing, and then recently they launched the sort of upgraded series a while back. I can't remember what it's called now. You know the one.
Remastered.
And it's just awesome. All the DLC, it's brilliant. I mean, it still looks a little bit old, maybe, but the story is just
it doesn't
incredible.
Matter if it plays well and it's enjoyable.
Oh man, I love it, and it still looks spectacular. Those space battles are as good as most things you'd see on TV. You know, they're so well done, and it has a real brilliant, which I love, core of real science to it. It's got a lot of fantasy science, a lot of made up stuff, but it's grounded in stuff that we know and you can extrapolate from to see how they got there. The whole idea of using a Mass Effect field, a thing that changes how gravity behaves within certain conditions or when something is applied to it in certain levels of ways. I love that, and it's not unfeasible in a way. It's a big sort of MacGuffin because it allows all sorts of things to happen in the story. And on top of that, it's also got one of the best kind of treatments or extrapolations of AI versus human consciousness, if you like. The argument between, because the whole enemy is a big AI, millions of years old. It's a big AI race that just want to clean out the universe of all organics. But then within that, you've got the Geth, who are a kind of constructed robotic race, and that turned on their creators. And then there's a whole arc to their story, how they eventually become, why they behaved the way they did, how they responded the way they did. It's not quite as clear cut. And then you've got Edie, who appears in Mass Effect 2 as a onboard artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is kind of limited, so it can't gain sentience. And Edie has that shackle taken off to help you through Mass Effect 2. And then she becomes a more human kind of AI. And then at the end of Mass Effect 3, because I know what's happening, you've got a decision. One of the decisions you can make is to kind of combine the AI and the organic together and produce a new kind of symbiotic kind of thing in our evolution, so we become a combination of synthetic and organic in our next phase of evolution. And I love it. And it's really, really intelligently done. And you get to shoot aliens, which is brilliant, with big guns. It's even cooler. So I love that series. I really do. What about you, Geoff? What have you been up to?
Well,
you should play it, actually.
I should play it, yeah. I wonder if is it on PlayStation?
Oh, yeah. I think I played it originally on PlayStation.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, Mass Effect 2 and 3. On PlayStation 1. Xbox, the first one was only available. It was an Xbox Studios effort originally.
Right.
So it was exclusive for that, but the other two, and I think all of them are on PlayStation for years.
Yeah, okay.
So
maybe I'll have a look.
give it a go, mate. It's pretty good.
So I have watched K-pop Demon Hunters.
No, you haven't. Geoff! Young thing, you. Mate, you're Gen Z.
My kids have watched it multiple times, and they loved it. And then last weekend we were around a big family thing, and they watched it then with their cousins, and they were all singing along.
Really?
So I thought I've got to give this
brilliant.
Give this a watch. And you know what? It's really good. It's really it's got great animation. It kind of brings anime sort of manga stuff into sort of a 3D. Modelling kind of. Do you know what I mean? It's not just flat. It's 3D models. Characters are great. It's really dynamically kind of choreographed, and in the fights and the singing bits, the songs are really good. Yeah. And the story with the kind of demon underworld and the girls kind of fighting and singing to keep us safe from it. It's quite a good feel of like empowerment and stuff in it. And
I love all that stuff.
It's strangely quite. I think if you're doing it's just kids film, it's not really a kids film. It felt quite. It was quite. Let's say moving in a way, a little bit. It gets quite sort of dark, and but it was really good.
I think some of those things do. I mean, I still do, but I don't watch anime is anywhere near as much as I used to, back in my 20s. I used to love all. I was a big fan of Akira, which is the first manga I discovered way back then, and that kind of opened up the door to all kinds of, the Japanese stuff. And what was the other one? I've got out there actually. Oh yeah, Ghost in the Shell, which I thought was just incredible. I didn't like the movie so much, but the original anime series that came off the back of that is just awesome. And I kind of fell out of touch with it over the last few years, but there's some really good stuff out there I wouldn't mind reconnecting with. And I've heard about this because it's been all over the place. You can't not hear about it.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of had in my head, well, maybe it's just a Gen Z thing, which it probably is. But this is one of the great things about being a parent, young people out there, right? Is that you rediscover stuff, and you can be the sort of parent that my parents were. So, it's not like it was in the old days, or you can actually discover so much stuff through their eyes because you see how much your kids enjoy it, and it's new for them. And if you're sat down watching it with them, it's brilliant. It's one of the best feelings in the world, discovering something new through your kids enjoying it. I loved it.
If they hadn't, and glad I did. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, my kids now are grown up and they're doing their own thing now. But
it's got girls kicking butt in it. Singing.
Yeah.
They probably quite like it.
But this is the thing, right? Because now Freya, my youngest, right? She's 18 now, right? She wouldn't get into that. She might have done if she'd have been 5 or 6 years younger, maybe. Yeah. Because it would be right up her street. But now she would literally just say, that's not for me, without even getting any deeper.
She'd probably
Do you know what I mean?
quite like it, actually. So, she'd probably quite like it, actually.
She might do. Yeah,
you might even like it, although you do have a Hearthstone. So
that's not true.
It is true.
I'm wounded.
And on that note, I'm going to have to sign off for now. But
you've got to get back to work.
Yeah, got to go. So thanks everyone for listening. Hope you've liked this little add-on at the end, and do let us know your thoughts on the future of Who. And we'll catch you next time on the podcast.
Next time. See you for then. Bye. See you then. See you for then. See you then. Take care. Bye for now.